Let me ask you a question. If you have a tax professional and you have a financial advisor, why are you still writing checks to the IRS every single year and not really sure why? I just met with a couple. We'll call them Fred and Wilma. They did everything right. $2 million saved, a financial advisor, a tax advisor, and yet year after year, the same result: unexpected taxes, frustration, and confusion. Here's the part that stopped me cold. They were the ones responsible for connecting the dots between the professionals. So the question is, what are they really paying for?
In today's world of market volatility and uncertainty, your retirement plans need to be front and center. With ever-changing tax laws, healthcare worries, and an unpredictable stock market, don't overlook the vulnerability in your retirement planning. Protecting your family and estate will be difficult with shifting policies in Washington. It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement. I'm Matt Goolsby. Now, let me slow that story down because Fred and Wilma, they're not unusual. In fact, we find they're incredibly common. This is a couple with roughly $2 million saved. They're not reckless, not unsophisticated. They've worked hard, saved consistently, and they've done what most retirees are told to do: build a team. They had a tax preparer. They had a financial advisor. On paper, everything looked covered. But every year, like clockwork, they owed taxes. And I'm not talking small amounts. This is enough to cause stress, enough to cause that quiet frustration where you start wondering, are we missing something? And as we dug in, the issue wasn't bad investing, and it wasn't that the tax preparer made a mistake. It was the coordination. Their financial advisor was doing what he was hired to do: managing the brokerage account, reallocating the investments, taking gains where appropriate, keeping the money working. But every time trades were made, those trades created taxable events. And here's the key part: no one was responsible for making sure the tax professional understood why those trades happened, when they happened, and how they could impact the bigger tax picture. That responsibility, it fell to Fred and Wilma. Now think about that for a moment. They're not experts. They are not investing professionals. They don't know what questions to ask because no one ever taught them what questions exist. And yet, somehow, they became the go-between, the messengers, the coordinators. And if the advisor sold something, it was on Fred and Wilma to remember to mention that at tax time. If the tax preparer saw a surprise on the return, it was up to Fred and Wilma to go back and ask the advisor what happened. That's not a plan. That's a relay race. And the baton gets dropped all the time. And this is where I think retirees deserve a hard, honest question. What are you really paying for if you're the ones doing all the coordination? Because retirement today, it isn't one-dimensional. An investment decision can often impact taxes. A tax decision could impact your Medicare premiums. And a withdrawal strategy can certainly have an impact on Social Security taxation. A beneficiary decision impacts estate planning. Yet most retirees are handed a collection of professionals who operate in silos. I'm sure they're well-intentioned, competent, but the big problem is they're disconnected. And then, surprise, when things don't line up. Here's the most important part of this story. Fred and Wilma didn't do anything wrong. They didn't fail. They weren't careless. They simply didn't know what they didn't know. And see, that's the danger zone in retirement because the stakes are higher now. There's no paycheck to correct mistakes. There's no redo button if a tax strategy backfires. And the margin for error gets smaller the longer retirement lasts. The real risk, it's not market volatility. The real risk is total disconnection. It's having multiple professionals all doing their job, but no one responsible for the big picture. And when that happens, the retiree becomes the project manager without the training, without the framework, without a clear understanding of how all the pieces are supposed to work together. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, that sounds a lot like us, here's the takeaway. You shouldn't have to quarterback your own retirement team. You shouldn't be the translator between your tax professional and your financial advisor. And you shouldn't be left wondering every April whether the outcome did or why the outcome didn't match your expectations. Retirement works best when responsibility is clear, communication is intentional, and coordination is built into the process, not dumped on you, the retiree. It comes from having the right professionals working together with you at the center and not in the middle. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Eye on Retirement right after this.
Out on the water, there is a moment. Perfect synchronization. The team working together in harmony to reach their goal. Now, imagine finding a team of financial professionals to help run your course down the river of retirement. Market Advisory Group is that team. Financial advisors, tax professionals, estate planning attorneys, and Medicare advisors. All in the same boat. If you don't have a team like this in one place, it can become a hassle to relay information between them. When you come to Market Advisory Group, we bring everyone together for you. To get you answers in real time. To help make sure you don't miss something that puts your unique plan off course. You shouldn't be the one doing all the work to keep your retirement on pace. You should have a team in the boat with you. Your voice telling them where you're at, where you'd like to end up, and how you want to get there. And at that point, everyone falls into sync, all pulling in the same direction, toward the same purpose. Your retirement's financial security. We are Market Advisory Group, proud sponsor of Shocker Rowing.
Welcome back to Eye on Retirement. I'm Matt Goolsby, and joining me now is Joshua Cicora, a CPA and tax advisor. Joshua, we talked earlier about retirees being forced to coordinate professionals, and then you had a great segue.
Yeah, so you were talking about how people are being forced to be these project managers and they don't have the experience, the know-how, and so they're pulling in these AI tools to try to bridge that gap and try to borrow its expertise to try to make these different pieces coordinate. But it doesn't always quite go as smoothly as that sounds like it might work.
So today what we want to talk about is something called AI tax hallucinations. And you're not hallucinating.
I don't think so.
So what are these AI tax hallucinations?
Yeah, so it sounds kind of crazy, right? What it really is that AI is designed to generate these plausible sounding answers. It doesn't go and verify them. And what's really scary is it can't come back to you and say, well, I don't know the answer to this.
That's when it makes something up.
So it
wants to give you a deliverable.
That's right. It wants to give you something. It needs to give you something. It can't say, I don't know. So it just kind of
Makes it up?
makes an answer that sounds good. As dads, we do this all the time with our kids, right? We give them an answer that sounds good in the situation and makes them stop asking questions. But when it comes to your taxes and your financial life, that's not good enough.
Yeah, so making it up as you go along is not good for when you're in a job interview, and it's not good for when you're using AI for tax advice. So AI is a great tool.
That's right. It's confident by design, but it's not careful by design.
Okay, so this isn't hypothetical or theoretical anymore. What are tax preparers observing with? I'm sure people are already making mistakes. I mean, I saw some stats that like 550 court cases have already like blamed AI hallucination, all that stuff. This is something that's happening right now.
It is, and we're seeing it come in when people come in and they've done things. Well, I did this because I was in this situation and AI suggested this was the right way to handle it. We'll see it a lot of times as people are making retirement contributions. Well, I maxed out what I could do with my workplace plan, so I contributed to a traditional IRA because AI said that was still an option. Well, except it's missing a couple different pieces there, and what you thought was going to work one way is actually not at all going to work that way. And now you're going to have an error, and it's not just added one and one and got three. It's a context mistake.
I was going to ask, is it a context mistake? Is that a fair question to ask? I mean,
Yeah, it is. That they didn't understand the context of what was going on. AI didn't understand it because the taxpayer doesn't get it. They don't have the know-how to detect when AI told you something wrong.
So how do you know what you don't know? You just search the internet for, hey, what do I not know that I need to know? And it doesn't work that way.
That's right. And so people will come in and they'll kind of do their own back of the envelope math, and they'll have outdated standard deductions. It's from last year. It's from before the tax law got passed over the summer and things got tweaked a little bit. They'll come in and not understanding how Social Security taxation works. So they'll work through that math wrong. They'll not understand how there's different income thresholds in the tax brackets and how they play in together. Or the scariest one, because it's got the biggest time delay to it, they don't understand how the Medicare premium adjustments work.
Wouldn't be an Eye on Retirement episode if we didn't sneak in Irma somehow.
That's right. That should be a new thing. Yeah. Yeah. And so what people are getting is these answers out of whatever their favorite AI tool is that sound professional. They sound good, but they're missing that most important variable, the person who's asking the question.
So, and that's why I think where retirees get hurt, because the almost right it's not like horseshoes and hand grenades. It's close enough it's gonna still trigger penalties.
That's right. And so while the answer you get might look good to the person who doesn't understand all the ins and outs, the IRS does. And so then they don't say, hey, AI tool, you're really the problem here. You need to pay these penalties. No, it's the taxpayer who's ultimately responsible. AI doesn't show up and help you draft a response to an IRS letter, or in the most, scary of situations, deal with that IRS auditor who's knocking on the door.
You mean Audit GTP doesn't exist yet?
Not yet. We should go trademark that.
So fixing all these mistakes that an AI software could generate for you is going to be more complicated to unwind than just maybe going and finding the right guy to give you the right advice in the first place.
They say a stitch in time is worth 9. And this is definitely in this situation. Getting that return put together right the first time is going to save you not just dollars and cents, but so much headache and stress.
So would you think this hits retirees harder than maybe even younger taxpayers?
I sure think it does. In retirement, all these different pieces are coordinated. I mean, you just ran through like a 30-second list of how these different pieces all play in together. Investment earnings impact the taxation on the Social Security. Requirement distributions impact that Social Security. All of it impacts those Medicare premiums. And younger folks who are just in that wage earning stage of life don't have all that interplay, so they're not as heavily impacted on these things. And so when AI tries to answer these questions, it does it one topic at a time. And as you're in that retirement phase, those answers, they need coordination, not just that silo approach.
So tax planning is not about getting the answers right. It's about getting all the answers working together.
That's exactly right.
So this ties directly back to what we talked about earlier in the show with Fred and Wilma. AI, it adds speed, but convenience is not coordination, and it's that coordination that's left up to the retiree, and it can get a lot of people tripped up. So AI, it's not removing the burden, it's just made the burden sound more convincing?
Yeah, and then it kicks that problem down the road a couple years till the IRS gets it figured out.
Well, Joshua, thank you for highlighting some critical areas when it comes to using artificial intelligence for tax planning. After the break, we'll be joined by my best friend, Bill Ramsey, Chief Information Security Officer at Market Advisor Group, to talk about retirees and cybersecurity, especially in this day and age of AI. Stay tuned. You will not want to miss this.
Retirement is supposed to be exciting, the reward for decades of hard work. But for many, it starts with a flood of questions. When should I take Social Security? How will taxes change when I stop working? What do I need to know about Medicare? And what happens to everything I've built when I'm gone? Retiring isn't just about leaving work. It's about stepping into a whole new season of life and making sure you're ready for it. That's why there's retirementhelp.com, a free online resource built specifically for people just like you. Clear, trustworthy information on the decisions that shape your retirement. RetirementHelp.com is here to empower you with the resources and education you need to retire with ease. What sets RetirementHelp.com apart from other resources is how we view retirement planning. We believe it takes a team, because taxes can affect Medicare costs, and finances can affect estate planning. We take a holistic approach to retirement, so you don't have to bounce around like a pinball to get your questions answered. We have articles designed to answer questions you may have, webinars that dive deeper into topics like Social Security and taxes in retirement, videos, TV shows, and podcasts exploring real-life issues retirees have run into, as well as daily updates addressing changes in the retirement landscape. Don't let doubt keep you up at night wondering if you're ready or not. Visit retirementhelp.com today and start planning the retirement you deserve.
Well, welcome back to Eye on Retirement. We've covered some surface level hazards when using AI for fast results with Joshua Cicora, but now I want to talk about something which I wanted to talk about for weeks, but someone couldn't get around to it. So I want to talk with someone who knows a bit more about cybersecurity, Bill Ramsey, Chief Information Security Officer with Market Advisory Group. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I bet you are. I bet you are. You've been busy over the first couple of parts of this year.
I have.
So, but when someone types their tax return info into Chat GTP, explain to us, where did stuff like that go? When you feed things into Gemini or I don't want to single out Chat GTP, any of these AI tools, where does that stuff go?
So the information that you're putting into the AI, it's actually it's the learning model for the AI. You're putting more information in, and it's actually using that information to train itself to be able to answer other people's questions. So what we end up seeing is that people are putting in their own personal information into an AI that is then put out there for other people to view.
So it's not private.
No, it's not private. There are certain ones that are private. So we have enterprise level AI models, and then we have the consumer level AI models. Those consumer level, that's everything you put in is being used to train the system. Enterprise, now that is different. That's an encrypted, stored area that's just for that enterprise, and it's not used to train the model outside of that enterprise.
So I'm sure the retiree knows exactly what kind of AI their advisor's using.
No, they're not going to know that. It's a great question for them to ask. Are you using an enterprise level AI, or are you using just what's out there? You definitely want to make sure that they are using an enterprise level AI that meets the encryption standards, the data retention policies. Not all AI is created equal.
Well, so then if that's a good question they should ask, is there other questions maybe they should ask their advisor or advisory team? How are you protecting my information?
That's a great question, and we do get those questions all the time. Do you have a cybersecurity policy? Which we do. Is my data encrypted at rest and in transit? Which means when it's stored, is it being encrypted? So if they get breached, they can't see the data. And when it's being sent to that area, is it being encrypted? Do you carry cyber liability insurance? So many companies don't do this. And do you use your AI in-house or through secure enterprise systems? So are you using a consumer model or are you using an enterprise model?
So important questions to ask: who's handling your most your life's most critical and sensitive information.
Exactly.
So now I want to transition to, AI has been disruptive on a lot of fronts, but whenever I see new innovation or things come out, I'm like, okay, now how are criminals going to start using this? How are people going to start getting scammed with this? Because that's a whole disruptive phase of its own. And you were talking in our weekly leadership meeting of why you shouldn't say hello when people call. So I've heard of retirees getting phone calls that sound exactly like their grandkid.
That's right. So it drives me crazy. If you call the younger generation today, they won't answer. They just pick it up and listen, and they're expecting you to say something. And it seems so rude, but it's actually brilliant because they know that these AI models are listening to your voice so that they can recreate your voice later on. When you answer hello or hi, this is Bill, it's recording that, and then it's using that to train that AI model to make phone calls to your family that sound just like you.
I mean, think about that. This is a new frontier for scams. I mean, if scams weren't already rampant enough, if the retiree out there wasn't trying to worry about where they were going to get scammed next, now this is a new one. It's crazy how AI is changing everything.
It's the radar detector and radar detector model. We're gonna come out with something to protect ourselves, and they're gonna come out with something to thwart it. So the AI is no different. And there's things that you should be doing to protect yourself from that.
Well, then how do retirees protect themselves when they don't know what questions to even ask?
So one of the first things they can do, especially for family, is to have a family password. Right? They all get together, they talk about what that is. So if they get a request from somebody, they say, "What's the password?" If they don't know it, it's not their family. And never, ever just wire money without verifying this. Hang up and call your family member back to make sure it's them. But there's a lot of things that you need to do to protect your identity, protect yourself on the internet, and to make sure that your advisor is doing these things. And things like multi-factor authentication. It's very important for your accounts. So it's not just a username and password. Zero trust environments, which means we already know this is part of us. Training. Is your advisor, are they training their staff on security policies to make sure that they're up to date on what's going on?
I think all you guys get tired of me repeating the same thing around and around and over again. It's like you can't put that in just any AI. You make sure that you're following the rules. Limited access data is also, or limited access controls is also one of those things.
Correct. Yeah, we have restricted our staff to simply one AI that we can control. They can't use any other one.
So segmented systems, routine, penetration testing, these are all different things that I had no idea even existed before we brought you in.
Correct. So cybersecurity isn't just an IT issue. It's a fiduciary responsibility. And you need to make sure as one of the clients that your advisor, your entire advisory team is adhering to that and making sure that they're protecting you. You're doing everything you can to protect yourself, but are they protecting your data? They have a lot of stuff about you.
So before even AI was really where it is even now, several years ago, you said you can have the best cybersecurity in the world, but the weakest point is what?
It's the human.
Listen.
I can build you a very secure network that nobody's going to get into, and just don't put any people on it. People are the weakest link. So social engineering, which is the idea of going through and attacking the weak link, the human, calling them directly, and getting information out of them, is still the best way to get information. The MGM, the Cosmopolitan, all those had a $80 million hack or $800 million hack because of a social engineering attack on an IT person, where they called and got them to give them the administrative password.
Crazy. So, I mean, in the old days, I say the old days, before AI, which seems like the old days, if someone in your organization clicked on an email they shouldn't, if they opened something, that was a risk. There was things you could put in place to mitigate that. But now you have the risk of someone just, I'm going to organize these clients' notes. I'm going to throw them in Gemini, and it'll help me organize them faster. It's like, no.
Exactly. So what could end up happening in a case like that is that if somebody's information has been put into an AI, later on I could ask an AI about that person, and it's going to respond back with what it knows, which is a financial history of that person. You don't want that out there.
So how quickly is the world changing? Rapidly.
Faster than we can keep up with. It changes nonstop.
So AI, it can be an incredible productivity tool, but the real question is are these firms out there using secure enterprise level AI environments, or are they pasting your social security number into consumer websites without you even knowing? Right?
Absolutely. It's just it's a very dangerous place to live, as it is, and it makes it even worse if your advisory company is not caring about what they're doing with your data. And how do you know? You got to ask the questions.
So I was talking with someone the other day. It was not anyone that works here, but I was at a social gathering, and this person said that their job was letting them use one of these AI tools. But I kept telling them, well, are you feeding it any sensitive information? And they said, yeah, don't worry about that. Our company approved it. I'm like, you're not understanding what you're feeding out there. And that's just, again, you got to get in the right mindset.
Exactly. Security is a mindset, and it's a pain in the keister. We all know it. It really can be, but it's actually incredibly important.
So here's the takeaway. If you want to be confident that your most sensitive financial and estate planning information isn't being put out there and shared in ways you never really intended, start with step one. And step one is that 15-minute, no obligation phone conversation. It's designed to bring clarity, especially in a world where technology is moving faster than most people even realize. And especially if your spouse needs help when you're not going to be here to step in and run that plan. You can schedule that 15-minute phone call conversation with us at retirementhelp.com, or you can do so by calling 833-44-CORE4. That's 833-442-6734. That's all the time we have for this week's episode. I'm Matt Goolsby, reminding you we're here to keep an eye on retirement.